In this video, we're going to be looking at reflexive verbs. So what are reflexive verbs? In French, they're called les verbes pronominaux or les verbes réfléchis. So in a reflexive verb, the object of the sentence is the same as the subject of the sentence. So in I wash myself, myself is the same person as I. It's reflexive. The action is reflected onto the subject. It's the same in the sentence we talk to each other. We, each other, are referring to the same people. So it is a reflexive verb. We can see in the example here the difference between the dog. The dog and I are not the same entity. It is not a reflexive verb, but when we use wake in this sense, I wake myself up, then it is being used reflexively. So we need to know what are the words to say myself, yourself, himself, etc. These are called reflexive pronouns. So in French, they are me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce. So for nous and vous, it's quite simple. There's no difference. So nous can mean we or us and ourselves. And when we use them in a reflexive verb, we have to put them one after the other. Nous, vous, vous. So let's see how this will work. Okay. So first, when we see a verb, how do we know in French that it is reflexive? If you see it in the infinitive form, you'll notice that it has a se or an S apostrophe if it starts with a vowel. So se laver, it's not just laver. Laver by itself means to wash. But when we say se laver, it's reflexive, to wash oneself. Same for s'amuser. Now here is where we have to be careful, because if a verb is reflexive in French, it might not be reflexive in English. So in English, we usually say to have fun. There's nothing reflexive about it, but you might find it easier to think about it as enjoying oneself. That is reflexive. S'amuser. So if we want to conjugate a reflexive verb, we need to have the reflexive pronoun. So you can't just say I wash, you have to say I myself wash. I wash myself. So this is where we have to add in the reflexive pronouns that we've memorized. Je me lave, tu te laves, il, elle se lave, nous nous lavons, vous vous lavez, il, elle se lave. You can see what's happened here to the reflexive pronoun. It's been contracted. Why did we get rid of the E on the me, te, and the se? Because amuse starts with the vowel sound. We can't have me amuse, so we contract it. Here is just some examples of reflexive verbs in French. You can notice that some of them are reflexive in English, but lots of them have meanings to do with daily routine, which will be very useful in this unit of work. So here's a verb that you know, but maybe you didn't know that it was reflexive. So s'appeler means to be called or to call oneself. It's different to the verb appeler because that is not reflexive. Appeler means to call. J'appelle ma mère, I call my mother. Whereas je m'appelle is I call myself, or really my name is. So this is an example of a reflexive verb. So here is a very important reflexive verb, se lever, to get up. It's very important when we're talking about daily routine, and we also have to memorize it because it is semi-irregular. You might wonder, well, what is irregular about it? Because it's an ER verb. Does it have the regular ER endings? E, ESE, ONS, EZ, ENT? It does. The only difference is that it has some accents on some of the conjugations, but not all of them. Listen to me say the conjugations and try and figure out why we've got an accent on only some of them. Lève, 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 levant, lever, lève. Can you hear that the accent makes a le sound? Without the accent, it's a le sound. So this is one that we have to remember by heart. Okay, so there are 3 ways to ask a question in French. Everyone knows how to use est-ce que at the start of a sentence. So tu te couches, which means you go to bed. You put yourself to bed, or you're putting yourself to bed. All we have to do is add est-ce que to the beginning. Est-ce que tu te couches? Are you going to bed, or do you go to bed? The second way, which is quite formal and it is the most difficult way to formulate a question, is using inversion, which means that we change the word order, but we don't add in a question. We don't add in est-ce que. So tu te couches, what we do is we take the subject tu and we put it after the verb with a hyphen. Te couches-tu? This is quite formal and it can get difficult, as you see at the bottom. When you have 2 vowels together, you have to separate them with a T. So that's quite complicated. The easiest way to ask the question, apart from using est-ce que, is by using intonation, which just means putting question mark at the end and raising your voice if you're speaking. Tu te couches? Are you going to bed? Do you go to bed? And this is the most informal way of asking a question as well. Okay, so just a quick note about using the infinitive form of the reflexive verb. For example, when you're giving an opinion with a normal verb, I like to play. J'aime jouer. Remember that we don't say j'aime jouer because I like play. We want to say I like to play. J'aime jouer. To play. What happens with the reflexive verb is that because in its infinitive form it starts with an S apostrophe or a S, oneself, you don't really want to say I like to enjoy oneself. You want to say I like to enjoy myself. I like to have fun. Me. So you keep the ending of the verb like you would with any other verb, but you have to change the reflexive pronoun to match the subject. J'aime m'amuser. I like to enjoy myself. Il doit se laver. He must wash himself. Nous allons nous parler. We are going to talk to each other. Finally, putting these into the negative, it can be quite hard to remember, but we have to put ne and pas around the whole verb. So we don't want to split apart the reflexive pronoun and the verb. Me lève must stay together. So you can see that the ne and pas each time goes around all of the verb, right after the subject and then after the conjugated verb. Je ne me lève pas. Tu ne te lèves pas. Il, elle ne se lève pas. Nous ne nous levons pas. Vous ne vous levez pas. Elle, il ne se lève pas. That's it.